16-lesson course on Ramayana in human physiology. Discovery of the eternal reality of the Ramayana in the structure and function of human physiology. Ramayana, the eternal epic of the Vedic literature, reveals the cosmic nature of the unfoldment of human life. 16-lesson course by Maharaja Adhiraj Rajaram, Tony Nader, MD, PhD, first ruler of the global country of world peace. January 8 to 11, 2012, Maharishi European Research University, Holland. Theme 1. The Fundamentals of Ramayana in Human Physiology. Ram is Brahm, totality, wholeness. Lesson 1. Introduction to Ramayana in Human Physiology, Part 1. Ram is the embodiment of total natural law. Welcome to this special introduction to the scientific knowledge of Ramayana in human physiology, in which Dr. Tony Nader, MD, PhD, the author of the book Ramayana in Human Physiology, explains his discovery that the impulses or sounds of Ved, including every aspect of the Vedic epic Ramayana, represent the structuring dynamics of all creation and, in fact, provide a precise blueprint of the structure and functioning of the human physiology. In recognition of the momentous significance of Dr. Nader's initial research in this area, the great Vedic sage, His Holiness Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, honored Dr. Nader with the title of Maharaja Adhiraj Rajaram and appointed him the leader of the global country of world peace, which is the umbrella organization for the whole of Maharishi's worldwide movement. In this course, Maharaja goes deeply into the correlations between the characters and events of the Ramayana and the structures and functions of human physiology. We learn, for example, that Ram's arrow, returning to its quiver, corresponds precisely to the feedback loops in the human nervous system. By studying these correlations, we learn that this renowned story is actually a description of total natural law. The characters and events of the Ramayana are unfolding the story of natural law as it expresses itself in creation and in the human physiology. Therefore, the study of the Ramayana at the deepest level upholds life in the evolutionary direction. Maharishi, the founder of the Transcendental Meditation Program, stated that Ramayana is for full enlightenment. This introduction consists of 4 parts, covered over 2 lessons. First, in Lesson 1, we will hear a 20-minute summary of the Ramayana, so that everyone can become familiar with the characters and events that take place in the story. Then we will enjoy a few minutes of Maharishi's own words about Ram and the Ramayana. In Lesson 2, Dr. John Hagelin, renowned quantum physicist and leader of Maharishi's movement in the United States, speaks on the physics of the unified field, consciousness, and Ved. Then we will hear Maharaja Nadaram's keynote address to an audience of over 800 Indo-Americans at a special event in Chicago, Illinois, USA, in 2012. This event was entitled a new paradigm, Ved, consciousness, Ramayan, and the self. And Maharaja's talk encapsulates in 30 minutes the profound content of his recently published book, Ramayan in Human Physiology. Now, we will begin with a brief retelling of the story of the Ramayan. The Ramayan begins with an inquiry by the great sage Valmiki to the Rishi Narada as to whether a leader exists in the world who is endowed with the highest qualities of character and strength. Narada recalls Ram and relates his greatness, enumerating his many exemplary qualities. Narada explains that Ram is the embodiment of total knowledge, who knows everything and spontaneously thinks and acts according to dharma, natural law, in order to bring balance to any situation he faces. Narada said, "He is a knower of dharma, the embodiment of truth, and intent on the protection of his citizens. He is illustrious, filled with profound knowledge, powerful, of great purity, and established in the self." Balkand 1:12. Ram's father was the great king Dashrath, who ruled the kingdom of Kosala from its capital city of Ayodhya on the banks of the river Saryu. King Dashrath successfully reigned over Ayodhya for thousands of years, always perfectly in accord with natural law. But he had no heir for his kingdom. So one day he summoned his ministers and learned rishis, and on hearing their counsel, he resolved to invite the great rishi Rishyashringa to come to Ayodhya. The king asked the great sage to officiate at a highly auspicious ceremony known as the Ashwamedha Yagya. Soon after, all of the elaborate preparations for this were made in the proper fashion. At the auspicious appointed time, the grand ceremony began, and everything about it was conducted in the prescribed way. Now at the time, a terrible Rakshasa known as Ravan had become the scourge of the world. He was the king of all the Rakshasas, so powerful that he was oppressing the gods themselves. And because of a boon he had been granted, the gods and other celestial beings were incapable of removing him. Only a human being could do it. But Ravan was so powerful that this was unthinkable. Seeing this, the great Lord Vishnu, foremost of the gods, agreed to assume human form as the four sons of King Dashrath, for the purpose of restoring balance and removing negativity from the world. Thus it transpired that during a second yagya that Rishi Rishyashringa was performing for the king, a messenger from Lord Vishnu emerged from the sacrificial fire. He gave the king a golden pot containing payas, or milk boiled with rice and sugar. As instructed by the messenger, King Dashrath gave portions of the payas to each of his three patni, Queen Kausalya, Queen Kaikeyi, and Queen Sumitra. In the course of time, the king was therefore blessed with 4 sons. Ram was born to Queen Kausalya, Bharat was born to Queen Kaikeyi, and Lakshman and Shatrughna were born to Queen Sumitra. And because the birth of Ram and his brothers had a supreme purpose, many divine beings incarnated on earth to assist Ram in restoring balance and neutralizing negativity. When Ram was a young boy, the great rishi Vishvamitra arrived in Ayodhya. To King Dashrath's surprise, he asked that Ram be allowed to accompany him to accomplish a great purpose. Vishwamitra had in mind that Ram could dispose of some Rakshasas that were interfering with his yagya. Despite the king's initial concern and reluctance, Ram and his younger brother Lakshman came under the care and education of Vishwamitra. Traveling on the way to his ashram, they came to lands that, although once prosperous, had been ravaged by a giant ogress named Taraka. Vishwamitra gently but firmly instructed Ram that it was his duty to bring balance to the situation. Ram twanged his bow, sending out a tremendous sound which stunned and enraged the ogress, and she charged angrily in his direction. After Taraka, the terrible ogress, gave the two princes a terrific fight, Ram prevailed in the battle, removing negativity and restoring balance to the whole area. Rishi Vishwamitra was highly pleased at Ram's victory, because Ram had taken the instructions of the great Vedic sage to heart. The next day, Vishwamitra instructed Ram in the use of powerful missiles called astras, giving him exceedingly formidable weapons in battle. Ram received instructions in how to discharge them and also how to call them back. When they arrived at the sage's hermitage, Rishi Vishwamitra once again began his Vedic ceremony. Ram and Lakshman safeguarded the yagya for 6 days and nights. On the last night, Taraka's two sons, Maricha and Subahu, led a group of Rakshasas who appeared with a loud and fearful noise in the sky and attempted to disrupt the yagya. Ram struck Maricha, hurling him off to a great distance, and he slew Subahu along with the others. And thus, under Ram's protection, Rishi Vishwamitra's yagya was able to succeed. Vishwamitra then brought Ram and Lakshman to attend a yagya of the renowned King Janaka in his capital city of Mithila. The king greeted them when they arrived and later told them the story of the auspicious bow of Lord Shiva. The bow had been deposited as a trust with his great forefather in times past and had been worshipped there for ages. King Janaka also recounted the story of his lovely foster daughter Sita, who was not born in the ordinary way, but had rather emerged from a furrow as the king was ploughing a plot of land to prepare for a Vedic ceremony. Although many powerful kings had requested Sita's hand in marriage, no one so far had succeeded at King Janaka's test of their worthiness. He had judged all of them by their ability to lift Shiva's bow, and all had fallen short. The king was happy to show the resplendent bow to Ram and Lakshman, and promised that if Ram could string the bow, he would give away the fair Sita to him in marriage. Up to this point, no one had been able to even lift Shiva's bow, much less string it. But Ram not only lifted and bent it, he actually broke it in two, creating a tremendous thundering followed by an earthquake, sounding as if a mountain had been broken asunder. Delighted at the great prowess of young Ram, King Janaka offered Sita to him in marriage, and he also offered his daughter Urmila in marriage to Lakshman. When the delighted King Dashrath heard this news, he arrived in Mithila straight away. Marriage was arranged for Ram's brothers, Bharat and Shatrugna also. So the 4 princes were married to their princesses all on the same day, and the gods rained down heavenly flowers on the brides and bridegrooms. On returning home to Ayodhya, having attained an age thousands of years old, King Dashrath was eager to please his citizens and crown Ram to be the next king. But on hearing of this, Queen Kaikeyi, the mother of Bharat, reminded the king of 2 boons that he had promised her many years before. To fulfill these boons, she asked that Ram be exiled to the forest for 14 years, and that her son Bharat be installed on the throne instead. Even though it caused him great distress, King Dashrath could not refuse. As a king, he was bound by his promise. And so, with great sorrow, he was forced to exile his beloved Ram to live in the forest. Being completely devoted to righteousness and wishing to honor his father's promise, Ram left for the forest straight away, accompanied by Sita and his brother Lakshman. Meanwhile, Bharat, who in no way desired the kingdom, moved his seat of rulership to nearby Nandigram, and placed a pair of Ram's wooden sandals on the throne in Ayodhya as a sign of his submission to his brother until he returned. And so Ram, Sita, and Lakshman began their days in exile, living in the forest. They enjoyed the sights of high mountain peaks, charming rivers, lakes with lotuses, and aquatic birds. They saw deer moving in herds all around. They were welcomed in the ashrams of sages, and Ram assured them that he would protect them from the many Rakshasas that were interfering with their holy duties. In that way, quite a few years passed by. After about 10 years, Ram visited the ashram of the great rishi Agastya, and Ram and Agastya greeted and honored each other in the proper ways. Agastya gave Ram a great divine bow that belonged to Lord Vishnu, along with an arrow presided over by Brahma that never failed and was as bright as the sun. Soon afterwards, Ram and Sita were staying in a cottage at Panchavati when they received a visit from the sister of that terrible Rakshasa Ravan, who was herself a Rakshasi named Shurpanakha. The moment that she beheld Ram and Lakshman, Shurpanakha became enamored with them, and when they did not return her affection, she was consumed with rage and threatened Sita. In defending Sita, Lakshman cut off Shurpanakha's nose and ears, and she fled wailing to seek aid from her half-brother Kara. Kara sent thousands of Rakshasas with the intent to kill Ram and Lakshman, but Ram destroyed them all, including Kara and his 2 brothers. When Ravan, the king of the Rakshasas, heard this news, he resolved to deal with Ram and Lakshman himself. He decided to abduct Sita with a trick by drawing Ram away from her deep into the forest. He commanded Taraka's son, Maricha, to assume the form of a magical golden deer, and in that form to lure Ram away. The reluctant Maricha was forced to comply, and assuming the form of a beautiful deer with an enchanting appearance, he entered Ram's hermitage. On seeing the deer, Sita was deeply charmed and begged Ram to capture it for her. Ram chased after it, wounding it with his arrow, but the deer then began to mimic Ram's voice in a cry for help. When Sita heard this, she became upset, believing that Ram had fallen into trouble. She insisted that Lakshman leave her to help Ram, and was adamant when he tried to dissuade her. So Lakshman left Sita, and seeing his chance, Ravan wasted no time in unfolding his plans. He spirited Sita away in his aerial chariot, taking her back to his palace in Lanka. When Ram and Lakshman returned to find Sita missing, they began searching for her immediately. They soon traveled to Kishkinda, a land in ancient India inhabited by Vanara, who are traditionally depicted as a monkey-like race of beings. As it happened, the Vanara were being ruled by their king Vali, who had exiled his brother Sugriva due to a misunderstanding between them. Sugriva was hiding in the forest, but anticipating a battle with his brother Vali. When Sugriva caught sight of Ram and Lakshman at a distance, he sent his minister Hanuman to find out who they were. On meeting them, Hanuman immediately recognized Ram's supreme nature and was overjoyed, and immediately became Ram's great devotee. Hanuman is celebrated in the Ramayana and throughout the Vedic literature for his immense power and unique abilities, including his capacity to become very large or very small, sometimes penetrating minute areas while simultaneously performing incredible feats. Hanuman brought Ram to Sugriva, who asked for aid in subduing his brother Vali. But first Sugriva asked for a test, to be sure that Ram would be up to the challenge. Vali, he said, could shoot 7 arrows, one after the other, through 7 large sal trees. To reassure Sugriva, Ram notched a single arrow on his bow and pierced 7 sal trees with that one arrow alone. The arrow then flew on to 7 subterranean regions before returning to its place in Ram's quiver. Sugriva was deeply reassured by this remarkable feat. Ram and Sugriva then fought Vali and defeated him, and thus Ram gained an ally in Sugriva. Sugriva ordered his monkey army to spread out in all directions, to scour the earth in the search for Sita. It fell to Hanuman to search in the south, and he was helped by a keen-eyed eagle, who spied her far away, being held on the island of Lanka. Holding Ram in his heart, Hanuman leapt over the sea to Lanka and stealthily made his way into Ravan's palace. After finding Sita, he gave her Ram's signet ring as a sign that he was an emissary of her husband, assuring her that she would soon be rescued. He then fought with the Rakshasas in the palace, allowing himself to be captured and brought before Ravan himself. Ravan set Hanuman's tail on fire, but Hanuman escaped and set fire to the whole city of Lanka with his tail. Then he departed to bring back the news to Ram that Sita had been found at last. On learning of Sita's location, Ram's forces built a bridge over the sea and soon crossed over to Lanka to fight Ravan and his Rakshasas. When they arrived, there was a tremendous battle, pitting the monkeys and others who had allied themselves with Ram against the various Rakshasas, including Ravan, his family, and his generals. The tide turned in the battle several times, yet one by one Ravan's generals and family were destroyed, as they challenged Ram and his forces. Finally, Ram and Ravan met on the battlefield. Ravan proved hard to defeat, until the sage Agastya, who had been watching the battle all along, appeared to Ram to instruct him in an eternal secret that would guarantee him victory. Putting the great sage's knowledge into practice, and with auspicious signs and omens appearing all around, Ram dispatched Ravan with the arrow presided over by Brahma, and emerged from the battle victorious. After Ravan's defeat, Sita was found and escorted back to Ram. But unexpectedly he kept his distance from her. Although he knew that she was pure, owing to the fact that she had lived for so long in Ravan's palace, it was his duty to consider the rumors that could spread among the people. Thus Ram repudiated her and granted her leave to go where she liked. With tears in her eyes, knowing she had been absolutely faithful, she decided that her only course of action was to enter a blazing fire. But because she had been faithful all along, Agni, the Devata of fire, protected her and attested to her purity before everyone. So now, with tears in his eyes, Ram immediately and joyfully took her back. They departed together for Ayodhya in the aerial chariot named Pushpak, and as they flew over the earth, Ram pointed out the landmarks of their 14-year exile. Ram invited all the Vanara, along with the new king of Lanka and all of his ministers, to enjoy triumphant celebrations in the capital city of Ayodhya. And afterwards, he re-established the government with Bharat as Prince Regent. In time, fate ordained that Sita would go to the hermitage of the sage Valmiki, and it was there that she raised Ram's two sons, Love and Kush. Although sons of the king, they stayed in the hermitage, and there they learned to recite the Ramayana under sage Valmiki's tutelage. When they were older, they returned to Ram's court and recited the entire Ramayana. Although Ram had never seen them before, he knew immediately that they were his sons. And soon after, the pious and sinless Sita, feeling that her time had drawn to a close, returned to the earth from which she was born, escorted by Mother Earth herself. Ram continued his rule for 11,000 years, and during that time he performed 10,000 Ashwamedha Yagya and many other yagya besides. He always upheld the sacred duties of a king. The reign of Ram ushered in a time of heavenly life on earth, Ram Raj, where all the citizens lived in perfect health and fulfillment. Narada recounts that during the reign of Ram, the people were exceedingly happy, content, fulfilled, and easily lived in accord with Dharma. They were free of sickness, free from disease, and devoid of famine and fear. Balkand 1:190. During the rule of Ram, there was nothing lacking. Everything was in its place, and everything functioned effortlessly. Ayodhya enjoyed automation in administration, in which every aspect of society functioned completely in accord with natural law. In this perfectly balanced and ideal civilization, the rishis continually performed yagya to sustain and enrich the kingdom, and even the Rakshasas themselves were ruled by a devotee of Ram. This story of the Ramayana is part of the branch of Vedic literature known as Itihas, and Maharshi has explained that Ved and the Vedic literature are nitya, eternal, and aparushaya, uncreated. This means that the Ramayana is neither a composed work of literature nor an intellectual record of historical events, but it is rather the reverberation of the most fundamental level of nature's functioning, the dynamic structure of an infinite silent field of intelligence underlying all of creation. Maharshi describes this field of intelligence as an ocean of pure consciousness, pure wakefulness, which moves within itself, creating the sounds and sequences of sounds that are the laws of nature that govern the universe. These sounds comprise the Vedic literature. Under Maharshi's guidance, Maharaja has shown that these same laws of nature are expressed on every level of human physiology, in the whole physiology, the cell, and at the core of each cell, the DNA. Our study of the Ramayana is based on this profound understanding, and we will find that the variety of characters and their relationships and the events that transpire in the story are all the expression of natural law, the display of the evolutionary processes of the laws of nature that take place throughout the universe. The study of the Ramayana therefore becomes a study and research in human physiology, revealing how every individual can grow to perfection and live life in unity consciousness on the basis of a perfectly balanced physiology. Maharishi has played a unique and irreplaceable role in the evolution and history of mankind by bringing us the understanding that Ved and the Vedic literature embody total natural law. Maharishi has not only demonstrated that this understanding is absolutely scientific and practical, but he has shown us how to apply Vedic knowledge in every field of life, to prevent disease and promote progress and prosperity, and to create perfect health for every individual and every society. Maharishi has shown us that it is the birthright of every human being to live life in the highest state of fulfillment and evolution in unity consciousness. And he has given us the simple, practical techniques of Maharishi Vedic science and technology of consciousness to effortlessly make that a living reality for ourselves and for everyone in our dear world. On the basis of Maharishi's revival of the timeless Vedic knowledge and the profound insights of Dr. Neda, we are able to truly understand and appreciate the significance of Ved and of the Ramayana, which have been cherished for millennia as the expressions of truth. And so, that is a very brief summary of the wonderful story of the Ramayana. Now, in part 2, we will hear a short reading of some excerpts from Maharishi's book called Ram Ramayan Ram Leela Ram Raj, in which Maharishi explains to us the true essence of the story. Maharishi: Ram is the embodiment of supreme order. The Ramayana says, Ram Brahm Paramarat Rupa. Ram is totality, Brahm, the embodiment of pure spirituality, pure intelligence, pure knowledge, the embodiment of infinite organizing power, ever present at the unmanifest basis of all creation, and throughout creation, in every grain of creation. Ram is the administrator. Ram, the ruler of natural law, is the ruler of the universe. Anyone identifying his intelligence with this level of intelligence cherishes that administrative skill which balances unity with diversity and creates an ever-expanding universe, unity diversified. Ram is the embodiment of pure spirituality, pure being, totality in its absolute unity. All activity in the universe is orderly because of that eternal law of life, the administration of Ram, which establishes and maintains harmony in all relationships, which harmonizes everything with every other thing in the universe. Maryada Purushottam Ram. Ram, the embodiment of pure knowledge, the embodiment of absolute order, the embodiment of eternal Ved, the light of perfection that illuminates all boundaries, all connections, all relationships, and exalts the supreme, the unbounded. The self-referral, eternal dynamics of the constitution of the universe, the Ved, defines Ram and portrays Ram in Ramayan, and makes Ram available to human consciousness to nourish all life everywhere, to glorify all life everywhere, to raise to perfection every aspect of everyone's life everywhere. The eternal constitution of Ram radiates the light of Ram everywhere. Ved, the eternal constitution of Ram, radiates the light of Ram everywhere. Ved, in the language of nature, is Ramayan. Ramayan rejoices in kindling the light of Ram in every heart. Ramayan sings the supreme and unfolds all the supremely delicate emotions, developing the total ideal of life in the heart of everyone, in the mind of everyone, in the intellect of everyone, in the being of everyone, in the behavior of everyone. Ramayan, the sing-song of eternal life, is a direct means to unfoldment of Brahm, the total reality in every jiva. It inspires the rise of every boundary to eternal freedom. Ramayan is for full enlightenment. Ramayan is for perfection in every profession. Ramayan is for mastery over natural law. Ramayan is for fulfillment of any desire one may have. Ramayan is to create a perfect man, a perfect society, and a perfect world. We are going to use Ramayan as the one textbook of Maharishi Vedic University to develop in every student the ideal of Ramayan. This completes our reading of Maharishi's words on Ram and the Ramayan. Listening first to the events of the Ramayan, and then hearing Maharishi describe Ram as the embodiment of pure knowledge, we can see that the study of the Ramayan may be experienced on different levels, from physical to transcendental. First, we can enjoy the wonderfully dramatic story of Ram, which has inspired people for ages with its portrayal of Ram's life, lived perfectly in accord with natural law. Secondly, we can perceive Ram as the administrator of the universe. And finally, as is our purpose in this course, we can see the Ramayan as the unfoldment of natural law, a study of the dynamics of pure consciousness as expressed in one level of manifestation in the Ramayan and compared to another, the human physiology. In a talk during the celebration in 2007 of the birthday of Dr. John Hagelin, Maharishi related the three levels of reality of the Ramayan in the following way. Maharishi said, so 3 levels of reality. Adhyatma, these are the Vedic words, Adhyatmik, Adidaivik, Devata, and Adibhautik, physical. Adhyatmik, spirituality. It is pure spirituality, pure unity. So Ram Brahm Paramarat Rupa. And Ram is Ved, Adidaivik. Ved is Ram, the administrator of the universe, the constitution of the universe, in terms of Ram. Ram, the constitution of the universe, is in terms of the Ved, and it becomes physical, Adibhautik, in terms of the physical Ram, the son of Dasharat, the Raja coming from the solar dynasty, the physical Ram. So these 3 values, and Dr. Hagelin has been mentioning the Vedic terminology in order that his students may go straight from reality to reality, 3 levels of reality, and he has given them the insight into the 3 values, Ram Brahm, Ram Ved, Ram Vishwa. And so, with these words from Maharishi, we bring Lesson 1 to a close. In the next lesson, we will briefly hear first from Dr. John Hagelin on the unified field, consciousness and Ved from the perspective of modern physics, and then we will hear a wonderful overview by Maharaja of his discovery of the Ramayana in human physiology. We will now read the titles of each of the lectures taken from the course overview chart. 16-lesson course on Ramayana in human physiology. Discovery of the eternal reality of the Ramayana in the structure and function of human physiology. The theme of the course is the Ramayana reveals the cosmic nature of the unfoldment of human life. The course begins with Theme 1, the fundamentals of Ramayana in human physiology. Lesson 1, Introduction to Ramayana in human physiology, Part 1. Lesson 2, Introduction to Ramayana in human physiology, Part 2. Lesson 3, the Ramayana is the science of wholeness. Theme 2, human physiology is the expression of total natural law. Lesson 4, understanding Purusha and Prakriti and the 6 fundamental devatas. Lesson 5, understanding how natural law expresses itself in material creation. Lesson 6, the totality of natural law can be found in every structure and function of human physiology. Lesson 7, structures of natural law in the development of human physiology. Theme 3, locating the characters and events of the Ramayana in human physiology. Lesson 8, locating in the Ramayana the 4 main areas of human physiology and their levels of function. Lesson 9, how corresponding hierarchies, roles, relationships, and events reveal the Ramayana in human physiology. Lesson 10, consistent correspondences between categories of characters in the Ramayana and their counterparts in human physiology. Lesson 11, locating Rishyashringa and the Ashwamedha Yagya in human physiology. Lesson 12, locating Vishwamitra and the Rakshasi Tataka in human physiology. Lesson 13, locating the Astras, Shiva's bow, and the story of Kaikeyi's boons in human physiology. Lesson 14, locating Virata, the abduction of Sita, and Hanuman in human physiology. Lesson 15, locating Sugriva, Vali, and Ravan in human physiology. Lesson 16, locating all higher states of consciousness and collective consciousness in the Ramayana, and the path of Ram in human physiology. The beauty of a human physiology is that it can live as a physical structure and yet at the same time live unity, the full development of oneness of life. That is the story of the Ramayana. Maharaja Adhiraj Rajaram. Jai Gurudev.